The design standards and tool were developed by the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs in partnership with state agencies through the Commonwealth's Resilient Massachusetts Action Team, otherwise known as RMAT, and the Weston and Sampson and BSC Group consultant teams. The tool utilizes the best available information that exists at the time of the latest update and is subject to revisions as more detailed data, new science, and/or new or evolving climate parameters become available. The direct link to the tool is accessible on the screen as shown. Upon arrival, click the blue Login or Register, or if you are a state agency user, click the State Agency User Login. Here, you can create an account, retrieve a password, activate a user, and update a user profile. When you create an account, you will automatically be assigned as a reporter, which means that you can create and submit projects through the tool, but only view and edit projects that you have created or projects that have been shared with you. Some state agency users may also be assigned viewer privileges, which means that they can view any project that has been submitted through the tool. This training video reflects reporter role capabilities unless otherwise stated. Please refer to the user guide for more information. If you have trouble creating a login or accessing your account, please email rmat@mass.gov. The tool launches with a disclaimer of terms and conditions for you to review. Please read through and then check the I agree box to continue. You will need to do this each time you log into the tool. Upon entering the tool, you will see the Start Here page. The tool's Start Here page introduces the tool and provides additional documentations and resources for you to review at the bottom of the screen, such as tutorials, guidance and forms, and supporting documents. To create a new project in the tool, you should navigate to the green New Project button located within the left-hand panel. Once a project is created or selected, you can collapse the left-hand panel. The remainder of this video will walk through creating a new project using a training test site to demonstrate key features. Upon creating a new project, you will be prompted to enter a project name in the Locate Project page. Creating a project polygon on the map is the first step. The project polygon informs relationships related to climate parameters, including exposure. Users should draw the polygon so that it encompasses the extent of all planned physical assets of the project within the limit of work. The area of the polygon must be under 3 square miles. If drawn over this limit, you will receive an error message. If you have a site that is larger than 3 square miles, you can create multiple entries through the tool with smaller projects. See section at the end of this video for how to clone or copy your project for convenience. Follow the instructions on the screen to draw the project polygon. Select the Polygon button located in the top right corner of the map to begin drawing the project polygon. Tip: watch the how-to video. Avoid confusion by clicking on the Show Me How button to watch a short video on how to draw the project polygon. This video also walks you through basic mapping features, polygon basics, freehand polygon sketching, how to edit an existing polygon, editing using the snapping feature, using MassGIS partials, multiple selection of MassGIS parcels, and importing GIS data to create a polygon. You can find, address, or place to search the map and use the arrow pointer to select polygon objects or undo and redo action. Select the plus button to select MassGIS partials as the outline of your project polygon. This feature allows you to select multiple adjacent property parcels to create a conglomerate project polygon. To edit the polygon, click on the polygon and select Edit. The project polygon can now be edited, moved, resized. Double-click on the project polygon feature already formed to edit the project polygon's vertices. You can delete a project polygon using the trash icon, which is located above the Save button at the top right corner. Once the drawn polygon is complete, use the Save or Cancel buttons. Note, you will not receive project outputs unless your project polygon has been saved. To edit the project polygon once it has been saved, click on the project name in the project panel on the left side of the screen. Note, this may result in rescoring of your project outputs based on the extent of your edits. Once you have completed drawing and editing the project polygon, you can now enter more information on Project Inputs page of the workflow. The tool prompts you to input details related to your overall project and the physical assets in the project in 4 different steps. The first step, Step 1, Core Project Information. Step 2, Project Ecosystem Services Benefit. Step 3, Project Climate Exposure. And Step 4, Project Assets. Each step is a series of questions to select or toggle for responses. The tool then uses these inputs, including the project polygon drawn by yourself, to generate the project outputs. Step 1, Core Project Information. The core project information does not affect project outputs, but can be helpful when querying for saved and/or submitted projects. You may click on the question and the space next to the question, or the pencil icon to answer. Either a drop-down, fill in the blank, or pre-populated answer choice will appear. After selecting or responding, click the Save button for each question to lock in the answer. Answers can be modified and resaved as needed using the Save button. Unanswered questions will appear in red, while completed saved responses will appear in black. Certain questions, as indicated, may display a question mark icon for further details or definitions. Clicking on the icon will reveal this information. Step 2, Ecosystem Service Benefits. Users will need to respond to a series of questions related to ecosystem service benefits of the overall project. Note, the ecosystem services question should be answered by considering the overall project, not specific to a specific asset. The first question asks, is the primary purpose of this project ecological restoration? The remaining questions seek to understand if the overall project provides, may provide, or does not provide an ecosystem service benefit through the yes, no, or maybe toggle. Guidance to these questions are provided through the question mark icon on the right side of the question. Step 3, Project Climate Exposure. The tool asks questions regarding the history of on-site flooding, impervious areas, and trees to inform project exposure score. Similar guidance is available through icons with the questions. Additional details about a project's exposure to climate parameters are assessed geospatially by the tool based on the project location as drawn by you. Step 4, Project Asset Information. An asset is defined as a major physical component of the project and is organized into 3 asset categories: buildings and facilities, infrastructure, and natural resources. In this step, identify major physical assets planned for the project within the limit of work drawn earlier. These should be assets that represent new construction or major retrofits or renovation or restoration efforts. To add an asset, you should select the Add button. You may add multiple assets under each asset category as necessary. For example, for the tool training test site, this project is a proposed redevelopment of a housing complex, which will include 5 assets. This includes residential buildings and a stormwater lift station, which are classified as building and facility assets. New stormwater utilities, including green infrastructure and piped stormwater utilities, which are classified as infrastructure assets, and a passive recreation space, which will be classified as a natural resource asset. Refer to the guidance text in the tool for additional information related to the asset types and subtypes. For example, for a dam removal project, the asset type will be the natural resource that is being restored, likely a stream or a river, and the construction type would be a dam removal. For a dam rehabilitation project, the asset type would be infrastructure, and the asset subtype would be a dam and flood control structure. Upon selecting the Add button, you'll be prompted to fill out asset information to create your asset. The asset type, subtype, and construction type are all radio boxes for you to select based on what is most representative of the individual asset. The construction year refers to the year in which construction is expected to start on the asset. The useful life refers to the estimated number of years before the asset will require significant reconstruction or renovation to continue performing its normal function. This differs from design life, which is typically shorter. Typical useful life estimates for buildings and facilities, as well as infrastructure assets, are shown in the tool's guidance icon text. Note, For natural resource assets, you will be prompted to identify the monitoring frequency years of your asset rather than the useful life. Please refer to the glossary of terminology located on the Start Here page for further information regarding the terminology used. If an asset was added erroneously, you can delete the asset using the trash can icon. For building and facility and/or infrastructure assets, there are additional criticality questions to inform the asset's preliminary climate risk screening and the climate resilience design standards outputs. Each question has additional guidance provided with the pre-populated options to select, as well as more guidance in the question mark icon to help users answer the question. Question 1, identify the length of time the asset can be inaccessible or inoperable without significant consequences, sets the context for the following questions. For example, residential buildings have people living there, so you would select this answer. Building must be accessible and operable at all times, even during a natural hazard event, and then answer the following criticality questions with the context of what would happen if that wasn't the case. Note, natural resource assets will not be prompted to answer criticality questions. Once the information in steps 1 through 4 have been completed and saved, the outputs are ready to be reviewed, and you'll see the workflow at the top of the page adds additional project outputs, view report, and submit project, as well as the scored symbol will appear on the left side of the screen adjacent to the project name in the collapsible search bar. The Project Outputs page provides a dynamic user interface for reviewing your project's outputs with additional guidance information integrated into the outputs. The Ecosystem Benefits Score, Environmental Justice Evaluation, and Exposure Scores are assigned to the overall project, while the risk ratings and standards are asset-specific. The Environmental Justice Evaluation provides a preliminary indication of the potential impact to climate-vulnerable populations who may have a lower adaptive capacity or higher sensitivity to climate hazards like flooding or heat stress due to factors such as access to transportation, income level, disability, racial inequity, health status, or age. Project polygons are either within a mapped EJ population, yes, or not within one, no. This output differs from criticality question number 4, answered on the project inputs page, which asked if the asset provides services to EJ or climate vulnerable populations, whereas this output is a GIS analysis of if the project polygon falls within a mapped EJ neighborhood. Click on the link in the item text for description for a statewide map of EJ communities mapped in Massachusetts. The Ecosystem Service Benefits Score provides an overall indication of the ecosystem service benefits provided by the project through protection of natural resources and implementation of nature-based solutions. Expanded information into why you received this score and what you could do to improve it is also available through the question mark icon. A low ESB score indicates that projects do not provide substantial benefits to ecosystem services and suggests that nature-based solutions are not part of the design. A high ecosystem service benefit score indicates that projects significantly benefit ecosystems and suggests that nature-based solutions are a central part of the overall project. The Preliminary Climate Exposure Score provides a preliminary assessment of whether the overall project site and the subsequent assets are exposed to the impacts of natural hazard events and/or the future impacts of climate change. This does not substitute a formal vulnerability assessment. The scores, ranking from not exposed, low, moderate to high, are valid for the project as a whole and are driven by the project polygon via a GIS analysis of exposure layers for sea level rise and storm surge, extreme precipitation, both urban and riverine, and extreme heat, plus a limited number of user questions answered in the project input, step 3. To view additional information about why the project received each exposure rating, click the question mark icons. These descriptions will vary for each climate parameter. Additional guidance information is available in the information icon in the top bar. You may see maps below under sea level rise and storm surge. Maps, if available, will be presented in the Climate Resilience Design Standards section below. The next section is specific to individual assets on the site. The assets will appear in the order entered into the tool, so users may need to scroll through the carousel to view outputs for all assets. The purpose of the preliminary climate risk ratings are to provide an initial screening to identify projects and assets with a high risk designation, which may warrant additional review and/or design considerations. High risk does not mean risky investment, and this does not substitute a formal risk assessment. To view additional information about why the asset received each risk rating, click the question mark icons. Risk ratings may vary between assets based on the overall project exposure and answers to the criticality questions provided in step 4 of the project inputs. Note, natural resource assets will not receive a preliminary climate risk rating. The recommended climate resilience design standards, or standards, is a key output, and its purpose is to provide a consistent basis of discussion for assets across various projects in the Commonwealth. The standards for each assets will vary and include the following for each climate parameter: a target planning horizon, a return period for sea level rise and storm surge and extreme precipitation, and a percentile for extreme heat, and applicable design criteria based on the asset type and project location. These recommendations are based on the project polygon location, asset type, useful life, construction type, and answers to the criticality questions provided by the user. For more information, refer to the supporting documents on the Start Here page. If the project is exposed to sea level rise and storm surge, the assets entered will also receive recommended standards for sea level rise and storm surge. If the target planning horizon is 2070, the asset will also receive an intermediate planning horizon of 2050. The design criteria are presented as dropdowns and include definitions, projected values, guidance for how those projected values may inform planning, early design, and project evaluation, as well as associated limitations. Projected tidal datums, projected water surface elevation, projected wave action water elevation, and projected wave heights may have projected values outputs through the tool as of version 1.1 that was released in April of 2022. These projected values are sourced from standardized outputs through the Massachusetts Coast Flood Risk Model, or MCFRM. For additional information, review the limitations text and resources on the Start Here page. The remaining applicable design criteria do not have projected values available through the tool, and instead recommend methodologies for estimating projected values using the planning horizon and return period and existing best practices. Users may download those step-by-step methodologies to estimate the projected values via the link in the project report and/or outputs. Users may see maps available below next to an asset icon in the carousel. Note, the assets appear in the order entered in the tool, so users may need to scroll through the carousel to find the asset with the maps. When this asset is selected, users will see an additional tab under sea level rise and storm surge. Maps are only produced for the asset with the lowest return period or largest design storm recommendation out of the assets entered. In this example, both the piped stormwater infrastructure and stormwater lift station have a recommended return period of 0.5%, or the 200-year design storm, which is the least frequent return period out of the assets entered, so maps will appear under both assets. Projected water surface elevation maps are provided for the 2030, 2050, and 2070 planning horizons and reflect the overall project location based on the polygon drawn by the user. The values shown in the map reflect the corresponding asset's recommended return period, but the maps do not reflect the location of specific assets on the site. The maps can also be viewed in a new window by selecting Click to expand maps. In the new window, additional functionalities allow users to zoom in and zoom out to a maximum of a half-mile buffer and pan around. The maps will also be available in the project report. There are two design criteria for extreme precipitation: projected total precipitation depth and peak intensity for 24-hour design storms, and projected riverine peak discharge and peak flood elevation. All assets will receive a projected value associated with the recommended return period and target planning horizon for the projected total precipitation depth for 24-hour design storms through the tool as of version 1.1 that was released in April of 2022. The projected value is sourced from a Cornell University dataset that was developed as part of EEA's Massachusetts Climate and Hydrologic Risk Project. Natural resource assets do not receive a recommended return period, but the rainfall for the 25-year 4% event is provided. Projected peak intensity for the 24-hour design storms and projected peak riverine discharge and flood elevations are not provided through the tool. Users may download the step-by-step methodologies to estimate the projected values via the link provided. There may be multiple methodologies provided in the downloadable PDF. Users are encouraged to select the methodology that corresponds to the recommended tier provided through the tool. There are several instances where alternative methodologies for projected total precipitation depth for 24-hour design storms are provided for consideration. Users may download those methodologies to estimate projected values and compare those to the ones provided in the tool as a basis of discussion. Users may also consider additional longer and shorter duration precipitation events and intensities in accordance with best practices. Projected values for extreme heat are not currently available in the tool. For each asset, users are provided with a target planning horizon, recommended percentile, and a recommended tiered methodology to estimate projected values following the downloadable step-by-step instructions. For information on why percentiles are recommended instead of return periods, users can click the question mark icon next to percentiles. Because extreme heat design criteria are often interrelated, guidance provided in the individual dropdowns may refer to other sections. Extreme heat affects more than physical assets planned for a project, and as such, human health and safety is a primary consideration in guidance for planning, early design, and project evaluation. Once you have reviewed the project outputs, there is a section to add comments at the bottom of the page. This is optional and will be included in the project report. There are also additional guidance, documents, and forms, which are intended to support and document climate resilience decision-making alongside the project outputs. The project outputs is dynamic with guidance interwoven into the user interface. We recommend that users review information here first and then proceed to viewing the project report under the View Report page. Here, the project inputs and outputs have been summarized in a report format and are available for download via the Download button. Generating the report does not submit the report. The project report can then be printed for and included in requests for proposals, grant submissions, and/or other types of project documentation. The report is organized by a project summary and asset summaries, followed by a scoring rationale, then summarized climate resilience design standards outputs by assets. Sea level rise and storm surge maps, if available for your project, will follow this section. The last section of the project report is the information entered into the tool by the user. Users can share the project with others via the Share button on the side project list. You will need the username of the person you want to share the project with, which is not the same as their email address. Users can control access to view the project, edit the project information, or edit and submit the project with others. To create a copy of your project, click the Copy Project icon here and enter a new name for the cloned project. This can be a helpful tool if you have multiple locations you are considering for your project and/or you have a project that is greater than 3 square miles, or if you want to update information after submitting a project. Users may be asked to submit their project for various grant applications or state agency requirements. Users should review project and assets inputs and outputs carefully before submitting. Once a project is submitted, users can still search for the project and view the dynamic project outputs, but you can no longer edit project inputs. Once submitted, users with viewer role functionality will be able to search for this project, but not make changes. Submission is not required to view or download the project report. We would like to acknowledge the following individuals and organizations for their contributions to the development of the Massachusetts Climate Resilience Design Standards tool. The development of the tool included active engagement and regular feedback from representatives from the Resilient Massachusetts Action Team, as well as subject matter experts. 5 working groups were established to provide guidance and close review on the following topics: scientific, buildings assets, infrastructure assets, natural resource assets, and capital planning. A technical advisory group comprised of consultants, academics, municipalities, regional planning organizations, nonprofit agencies, and federal agencies reviewed preliminary draft materials. Stakeholder engagement and feedback were incorporated into the development of draft materials during weekly interagency meetings, 10 working group sessions, a technical advisory group workshop, beta version pilot testing, public surveys, and over 20 focus groups over 2.5 years. Following the beta tool release in April of 2021, over 900 projects were initiated, and the tool was piloted in the fiscal year 22 Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness and MassWorks grant applications. Over 256 people contributed feedback, which was integrated into 3 subsequent versions of the tool in February, April, and July of 2022. Version 1.2 of the tool was released in July 2022 and is available for use. Please reach out to rmat@mass.gov for additional questions or support.